So right now you have a sign on your billboard out here. Black folks need to stay out of white churches.
Hey y'all, this is Rachel Christie South, and today I want to talk about this very peculiar message by this pastor here.
What's the meaning? What's the purpose behind this?
Well, whites left the inner city. Whites carried their churches with them. They moved to the suburbs. White folk have proved they don't want to live next door to us or be our neighbors or worship with us.
So the word to describe what this man is referring to is called white flight. White flight is the idea that during the time around the 50s and 60s, the time after World War II, that white people went into the suburbs because they didn't want to live alongside black people. This term white flight isn't completely unfounded due to the fact that during this time there were many white people that did go into the suburbs during this time, and there was legal housing discrimination to prevent black people from entering these areas as well. That being said, there are a lot of reasons outside of race why white people were going into these areas during this time. For one, after World War II, there was a huge economic boom and people were able to afford to be able to go out and live in these suburban areas. There they had home ownership and a lot more room. They would have much larger yards. So it is an oversimplification to just say that white people were going into the suburban areas just to get away from black people.
All changes in society started with the black pastor and the black church. Changes in society will not start with blacks attending white churches. The white church has been down through the years a racist, hypocritical organization because they didn't preach against lynching, they didn't preach against slavery, and the white church elected a racist president, Donald Trump.
So I'm not going to say whether or not Donald Trump is or isn't racist because I am trying to remain politically neutral. But even if that were true, only about 80% of people are eligible to vote, and only 60% of that voted in the election, giving a grand total of less than half of adults voted, period. And still, even with those who did vote, there was a lot of white Christians who did not vote for Donald Trump. So being able to lump all of this into saying that the white church just loves Donald Trump is a gross overgeneralization. Now, concerning slavery, it is absolutely not true that white Christians just stood by as it was going on. Back in 1688, almost 100 years before the United States was officially founded, you had Quakers that were protesting against slavery. Now, moving on to lynchings. Now we have Pastor Holly B. Lynn was a pastor of the Grace Methodist Church, and what he did was he summoned a group of people in response to the lynching. He got a Presbyterian person named J.T. Black. He also recruited a O.T. Hinton Sr., who was a noted Baptist deacon at the time, and Miss T.J. Malden, who was a judge, the widow of a judge of the matron of his congregation. They all came together to protest this action.
Now, I wanna say something to every African American that attends a white church. Leave now. Come to your mainstream black church. Your focus is different. Our cultures are different.
And now you see, this is where he's just flat out wrong. Our focus has nothing to do with race. Our focus is the same. Our focus is about building a relationship with God and being able to obey His commandments. Now, what this guy should realize is the severe problems and going back into having black people in one area and white people in the other area. About 60 years ago, black people fought very hard to make sure that that wasn't the case, that we had to be separated into different groups. Because what this guy should remember is that when you do separate people and people aren't interacting, it becomes much, much easier for those groups to discriminate against one another. Alright, so that's it. Now, when we talk about race and when we talk about church, I think it is important to remember, again, that our focus is the same. They were all trying to get into a closer relationship with God. And really, the saddest part about all of this is not once does he really talk about God. This entire thing is based off of racial politics, and none of it has to do with God. When we look in the book of Galatians, it reads, "So in Christ Jesus, you are all children of God through faith. For all of you were baptized into Christ, have clothed yourselves with Christ. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. If you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed, and heirs according to the promise." But hey, if you like that video, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so whenever I make another video, you could be the first to see it. And tell me what you think. Do you think there was some stuff about race that I didn't quite go over? What do you think about race and how it involves with church? Just give me your opinions. But yeah, y'all have a great day.